Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's discussion on church leadership. My name is Chance Greer, and I'll be covering material from a course titled Assemblies of God History, Missions, and Governance. And it's really a study of the historical development and governing policies of the Assemblies of God. This course covers 10 sections of material, and today we'll be going over Pastor's Practical Tips section. I feel this section in particular has very good information pertaining to church leadership and in helping you define what type of leader you want to be. We'll be starting with a discussion video that was taught by Greg Mundis, and it was titled The Soft Side of Leadership. He begins discussing the book Philemon. Greg goes over characters in this book and what they mean, but what I'd really like to focus on is a part where he talks about power. There is a book that he recommends that is titled Lead So Others Can Follow. And this book in particular states that there are three kinds of power. One is positional power, basically because your name is on the door. You have the title. Two would be possessional power. We possess what others do not, so it gives leverage and influence in a person's relationship to other people. Three would be personal power. Power that flows out of trust and respect others have for us. Influence rooted in who we are, our character. One of the quotes from the book that Greg uses is, "People will tend to rise to what we expect of them. If we value and trust people, they'll want to step up to the potential they believe we see in them." One of the things that Greg said that I thought was wise, I wrote down in my notes section, and I want to share that with you. He says, knowing how to handle a situation and having the wisdom and discernment from the Lord is extremely important in each situation. So as he goes on in his study of Philemon, he pulls four themes from the book that Paul reveals. One is Paul's heart language. He uses verses 1 and 2, 8, 17, and 19, where the communication that Paul gives shows a little bit softer side. He calls prisoner, brother, sister, fellow worker, fellow soldier. Consider me a partner. You owe me your very self. These are words that help to communicate Paul's heart language. The second theme that he communicates is his expression of love. It's pretty clear in verse 9 where he states, I prefer to appeal to you on the basis of love. It's implied that it's not an authoritative appeal. Verse 12 says, my very heart, which implies deep friendship, brotherly love. Verse 16 states, better than a slave, as a dear brother, very dear to me, but even dearer to you. The third theme that Greg brings out is Paul's conduct. Verse 4 states, thank my God as I remember you in my prayers. Verse 14 is a plea for spontaneous consent. It's not out of compulsion. And then verse 21 shares a confidence in Philemon. The fourth theme that Greg pulls out is Paul's request. Verse 11, it shows from useless to useful. Verse 17, welcome him as you would welcome me. Verse 18, I, Paul, will pay it back. Verse 20, let me have joy from you. Verse 21, you will do even more than I ask. Verse 22, prepare a guest room for me. These are four themes that are pulled out of Philemon that I feel that what Greg is communicating there is that there is a softer side of leadership that Paul is leaning on that is really one of relationship. It's one of love, it's one of care, and it's one that we should impart into our leadership style. One of the other sections I want to cover is this interview with Thomas Trask, and it was titled Management, the Other Side of Pastoral Ministry. He was interviewed about managing staff and volunteers from church ministry, but I think this applies to any department, any form of leadership. First question was, what are some of the dynamics of managing staff and volunteer workers? Trask responds with, the first responsibility is to see that job descriptions are clear so others understand what is expected of them. Second, once the ministry responsibilities have been clearly defined, the pastor must give the staff the freedom to function in their roles. People must understand what's expected and then be accountable to the church, the senior pastor, and the Lord. This tells me that if we have communicated expectations well, we shouldn't feel the need to micromanage, which also means that if you find yourself micromanaging a lot, maybe you haven't clearly communicated ministry responsibilities. Second question was, Releasing others in ministry has risk. How can pastors reduce these risks? Trask responds with, pastors can minimize risk by being selective about the people they put in positions. Know their capabilities and limitations. Make sure the lines of communication are always open so there are no hidden agendas and no secrets. The pastors need to trust. The rewards of empowering people far outweigh any liability. The few problems I had to deal with usually resulted from me not being careful enough in selecting personnel. I hope that some of this material that we have covered is helpful for you as you pursue church leadership, as you go through your planning and deciding your style of leadership. I hope that you can implement some of these ideas and some of these strategies. I know I will. So thank you for being here, and God bless.